whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace. The place to be is right here with me. It is Random Topic Thursdays, the hottest live stream on YouTube right now. And I am Gavin Reshaw. Welcome to Gavin Reshaw Presents here on channel gboot2786, on Gavin Reshaw, my backup channel, and on Periscope, Gavin Rich 2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Tonight, we will be discussing the following topics, including mental health call-ins and dog bites for a Black Georgia man. We'll also be talking about the resignation of Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York. And we'll also discuss new mandates in New Orleans and across the country, actually. And joining me, of course, today, it was always my special guest on Thursdays, the author of The Man Crisis, as well as the John Haynes series. You can check out his books on Amazon.com. It's none other than Shawn James. Shawn, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, my brother. I'm doing great. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we know how we get things started. If you are tuning in, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Also, I'd ask if you could donate to the Cash App or to the PayPal or Google Pay or Zelle that you see at the bottom. The links are all there at the channel. And also, if you would like to contribute, you can also do the super chat through YouTube. That would also be helpful if you could, but it's better to do it through Cash App or Zelle, since YouTube likes to take a chunk out of the super chat. But I appreciate anything that you give, and also you just being here. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. If you have not, also hit that notification bell so that when I go live, you'll know when I'm started. Because YouTube, of course, when I have my when I go live, sometimes they do not put the notifications up. Some people don't know that I'm live and they come in late, so it's best to go ahead and hit that up there immediately, and that way you won't miss any live streams or videos that will be dropping soon. So, of course, we're about to get started, and we'll be talking about those topics. But of course, you know how we got to get started, ladies and gentlemen. And even though I'll be hit with a copyright strike a little bit later, we always got to get on up. So we'll be coming back with Shawn. But till then, you guys, please download the song, or got to get on up on the Apple Store. Purchase it if you could, and enjoy the rest of the show. We'll get started in a few minutes. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we know how we like to get things going. So it's time to get on up.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we meet. Show them what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. Rhythm takes hold of you. There's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is getting moving. So time to get your body moving. You gotta get on and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you're breathing, you're achieving. So if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the baby, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on. Baby, feel the groove, get on the floor. Yeah, gotta get on the floor. Get on. Baby, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on. Baby, feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.
Hey, feel the groove, get on the floor. Gotta get on up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Gavin Reshaw Presents here on channel G Blue 2786. Wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Yes, the song, to answer your question, Queen Adaya, it is available on iTunes. It should be available. That's the Apple Music. So it's also available in you see that link at the bottom. It's also available in the iTunes store. So you're welcome to check that out. Thank you, Only JS, that you like the song. It has a 80s beat. That's kind of what I was going for. I got some new songs that I'm actually going to be working on very soon. I would like to put an album together. I'm hustling, man. You know, the secret today, especially for generational wealth, to pass it on is not just it's not about getting jobs. It's actually about learning to spend your money, learning to save up, and also creating, most importantly, multiple streams of income. And speaking of a brother, what's up, DeAndre Mosley? Let's bring our brother Shawn in right now because Shawn has been waiting. What's up, Shawn?
What's up, Gavin? How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. Yeah, I was just telling everybody the key is to have multiple streams of income. I don't know if you agree with that one, Sean. Do you?
Oh, I agree with that one because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to have multiple streams of income. So in case one flow of dollars ends, I have another one to fall back on. And everybody should have more than one. I always advise many of my viewers to always have things like side hustles going or small businesses going in addition to their job so that if they lose their job, like I did back in 2008, you'll always have a way to be able to sustain yourself and be able to take care of yourself.
Most definitely, that's what you have to do. Uh, you got to be able to take care of yourself. Got to be able to function because you never know when that other job may end. And I mean, how a lot of people, black and white, but I know, for instance, how the lady who started, I believe, the movie Joy, that's came out of which Robert De Niro and the actress that played Mystique in the X-Men Days of Future Past, she's an Oscar winner. Uh, you know who I'm talking about. It's gonna come to me. Hold on, let me look up her. The film was called Joy. The actress was Jennifer Lawrence. That's her. Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. Well, if you read that story, when she played Joy Manganiello, she quote unquote was a self-made millionaire and invented the Miracle Mop. She was working multiple jobs at the time that she did this, and back in the, I want to say it was in the late '80s when that was created, or early '90s when she invented the Miracle Mop, and I believe she had multiple jobs as a cleaning lady. She was also a housewife, so she was raising her kids. So she was doing all of those things. She worked as a waitress, airlines reservations manager. So she had a lot going on, and yeah, she eventually saved up her money enough to create the what she called the Miracle Mop when it did good on QVC, and eventually, uh, 10 years later, after it debuted in 1990, 1991, the company was selling about $10 million worth of Miracle Mops per year. So it's not something that happens overnight. Another thing I have a stream of income for. I also have my seasoning blends that I've been pushing and promoting. Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com. That is Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com. This is actually the, if you guys want to check out the website, where is it in the chat? Oh, there we go. Y'all can check that out. Shout out to Butterfly70, B1, Tina Ferguson. Got to get on up. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the song, dear. But yeah, check out the website, Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com. And Sean, where you can get his books is through Amazon. Get books like the John Haynes series, The Man Crisis. He's also working on the Woman Crisis, which will that be available this year, Sean?
It'll be available next year. I'm still like at the halfway point of it.
Yeah. Okay. And I have my book coming out real soon, so you guys be on the lookout for that one. But let us get into what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot going on, man. I'm going to start right now. What's going on in your home state? The governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, is resigning. He is set to resign within 14 days, well, 12 days now, since he gave that order, that made that decision late on Tuesday, that he would be stepping down after dozens of women accused, at least 12 women, or 11 that I've counted, accused him of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. And the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, had found evidence that was credible that the governor had engaged in some type of sexual harassment, and found women to be credible if you read the report. The report also mentioned how Chris Cuomo was involved in advising his brother. This is an article courtesy of the Washington Post and the video courtesy of CNN that I'll share, but I'll say that it's being shared for copy under the Fair Use Act of 1976 for educational purposes and criticisms only. I'll just show you that video right quick so everybody can see what Chris Cuomo's apology from back in a few months ago.
If you'll remember, I told you back in the beginning of March, I can't cover my brother's troubles. It wouldn't be fair. And you got it then, and I appreciate you understanding. Now, today, there are stories out there about me offering my brother advice. Of course I do. This is no revelation. I have said it publicly, and I certainly have never hidden it. I can be objective about just about any topic.
No, you can't.
But not about my family. Those of you who watch this show get it. Like you, I bet. My family means everything to me. And I am fiercely loyal to them. I'm family first, job second. But being a journalist and a brother to a politician is unique and a unique challenge. And I have a unique responsibility to balance those roles. It's not always easy. And people can say and write what they want, but I want you to know the truth. How I helped my brother also matters. When my brother's situation became turbulent, being looped into calls with other friends of his and advisors that did include some of his staff, I understand why that was a problem for CNN. It will not happen again. It was a mistake because I put my colleagues here, who I believe are the best in the business, in a bad spot. I never intended for that. I would never intend for that. And I am sorry for that. It's also important for you to understand, not only do I not cover this here, I've never tried to influence this network's coverage of my brother. In fact, I've been walled off from it. This is a unique and difficult situation, and that's okay. I know where the line is. I can respect it and still be there for my family, which I must. I have to do that. I love my brother. I love my family. I love my job. And I love and respect my colleagues here at CNN. And again, to them, I am truly sorry. You know who I am. You know what I'm about. And I want this to be said in public to you who give me the opportunity and to my colleagues who make me better at what I do.
All right.
And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help
This is
now
Cuomo,
is if I
announcing
step
his
aside
resignation.
and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do.
I was shocked because the governor, being New York tough, was not so tough at that moment. And the fact that he just is resigning and throwing his hands up in the air saying, for the good of New York, which we never skipped a beat.
I was shocked that he resigned so early.
I'm surprised in the sense that it certainly didn't look like the governor was going to give up anytime soon. So that was a bit surprising, but I mean, I think anybody with any kind of political chops looking at this would say that he didn't have anywhere to go. It was going to be inevitable.
I won't play all of it, but of course, taking over Andrew Cuomo's spot is the Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who will be the first female governor of the state of New York. And also, what's interesting, I found that another woman who will come in as the lieutenant governor, a black woman, I think her name escapes me at this point, but she is poised to be the lieutenant governor after she succeeds, Kathy Hochul succeeds Andrew Cuomo. Now, what's interesting, since I played for you all that first story from CNN and what you saw there in the New York Times from the Washington Post, someone else, there was a rally outside, I believe, CNN headquarters. This is coming from the New York Post. This guy, Curtis Sliwa, I'm mispronouncing his name. Curtis Sliwa actually stated he's running for New York mayor. I'm sure Shawn has heard of him. But
Yeah, I've heard of him. He's head of the Guardian Angels.
And what is the Guardian Angels?
They are a volunteer organization that patrol neighborhoods in order to establish a presence to let criminals know that the neighborhood is being looked out for and keep the neighborhood safe.
White supremacists?
They're not white supremacists. They're just very conservative. They're like a group of volunteers.
Like Bernie Getz?
Something like that, but they don't use
We're
violence.
asking him in advance of Chris Cuomo returning from vacation from the Hamptons, where he was seen on those jet boats just the other day, speedboats, is to fire him. Let him know he's not permitted back here at 30 Hudson Yards ever again to do any kind of a program.
Well, I agree with that part, but they said Republican mayoral nominee Curtis Silva demanded Thursday that CNN get rid of disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo's wartime concierge, brother Chris Cuomo, who advised the outgoing governor's response to multiple women alleging that they were sexually harassed by the state's chief executive. They are protesting, stating that Jeff Zucker, who's the head of CNN, fire Chris Cuomo, stating, "We're here today to mount to the steps here at CNN to give a letter to the shot caller, the man who decides what goes on in CNN, the Cuomo News Network, and that's Jeff Zucker. Zucker," he said, "should let him know he is not permitted back here ever again to do any kind of program." I do not, of course, care for Chris Cuomo. You saw that he stated he can be objective. He can't. His own news network, in and of itself, is basically a talking piece for the Democratic Party, much like Fox News is a talking piece for the Republicans. News should be unbiased. Now, this was an interesting article, Shawn, that came up. Shout out to Dante Salters, who actually had this. But Christine Flowers, a woman, wrote this saying, "Stop using sex as a weapon to take people down." My first thought when Andrew Cuomo announced his resignation was the satisfaction Donald Trump must be feeling. My second thought was how nervous Matt Gaetz must be feeling. Now, I'm going to share it so everybody can see and you can read it. My third thought was how vindicated Janice Dean at Fox News must be feeling. My fourth thought was how relieved the Italian folks who hug a lot and squeeze the cheeks of strangers must be feeling. My first through umpteenth thoughts were about how this was all a crazy show, and we have now resorted to the politics of the whiner. If you don't want to be triggered, you might want to consider turning the page right now. You already got a sample of how I feel about the Me Too movement in my columns on Brett Kavanaugh. And there were even some local female legislators who were triggered by my comments on AOC and her post-traumatic stress syndrome after January 6th. While I have no sympathy for Cuomo and in fact despise everything he stands for, I am more disgusted by the manner in which the king was deposed, placed it by his own dangling petard, so to speak. There are so many things that the New York governor should have been made accountable for, and this bit of madman misbehavior is really the least of them. He was not accused of raping anyone. He was not accused of molesting a child. He was not accused of making someone's employment dependent on her putting out. He was accused of touching, of feeling, of making crude and salacious remarks, and of being what he tried to define in a way that must have sent his courtly father gyrating in his grave. Italian. Those are not nice things. Those might even be illegal under state law, although I'm not sure the level of criminality since I'm not a New Yorker. At the very least, they could be civil offenses. They are very likely impeachable offenses. But those women are still alive, unlike the over 15,000 elderly nursing home patients whose deaths can be directly attributed to Cuomo's malfeasance. And those women are not in the line of fire of the Taliban, which just this week captured its 5th regional capital in Afghanistan. Yes, they felt uncomfortable, but they were not victims of war crimes and lived to tell the sordid tales. And most of them were raised in an era when daddy took them to work and told them they could be anything they wanted. They were simultaneously empowered and thought to wrap themselves in cotton and demand to be treated like water for crystal. Whenever I make this sort of observation, I usually get pushback from people who think we need to believe all women. And then, depending upon who the target of the Me Too lynch mob is, I get political or cultural partisan criticism from the left or the right. When I defended Dalen Leach, and Al Franken against some really flimsy, unsubstantiated, and absolutely ridiculous attacks on their character, I riled up the conservatives. When I defended the aforementioned Justice Kavanaugh, liberals were apoplectic, and I mean exactly that, pushed to the point that one person said the wrong Christine got raped. When I spoke out in defense of Bill Cosby, Catholic priests, and even Kevin Spacey, people were flummoxed and basically threw up their hands. They each thought I had an angle. And I suppose that I did, and that angle is stop using sex as a weapon to take people down. We can rightfully demand that women should be able to function in a society that both respects our autonomy and provides assistance and opportunity to succeed. That was the whole idea behind second and third wave feminism, wasn't it? Unless I'm mistaken, it wasn't a call for us to weep and wail about uncomfortable social interactions that fell far short of abuse and harassment. As a young woman, an old friend of my father unexpectedly made the moves on me. This was not exactly the Stone Ages either. It was 1982. I politely moved my leg, pushed my chair back, smiled, and continued on lunch. He got the picture and is actually still a friend. Nothing Cuomo allegedly did, including the pat on the back, is worse than what I experienced. Well, maybe the awkward groping of an aging old man was worse, but it was more pathetic than anything else. And yet, that's why he was forced to resign. Not because he very likely killed 15,000 elderly folk, not because he likely falsified COVID records, not because he helped baby brother violate every journalistic ethic in the playbook. No, he is resigning because Me Too needed a new scalp. In the litany of all immorality, his misconduct with women pales in comparison to his willingness to let them abort their babies pretty much whenever they want to. Damn. And there is such irony here. Cuomo's handpicked governor now becomes his successor. People are already hailing this historic achievement, the first female chief executive since Peter Stuyvesant jumped off the boat. And how did she get there? Not by merit, by accident. In one small respect, women do come off looking good in this scenario. Cuomo's lead attorney, Rita Glavin, looked fierce and extremely competent before the camera, showing that some of us don't need to ride the grievance train to get victory. She pointed out the gaping holes in the AG report. A female AG who didn't bother to go after him when he on ground, but who milked the cancel culture cow for personal political reasons. Don't tell me she doesn't have her eye on Albany. Sexual abuse is wrong. Rape is a felony. Harassment is immoral, unethical, and in many cases, a crime. But this was the Me Too mob, finishing what they ineptly started with Kavanaugh, and no woman should be proud of it. This was deep. This was deep. All right, Shawn.
Well, what was presented there in that article really reminds me of what I said a couple of years ago when I said about the Me Too movement, that it was originally founded to go after black men, like after Bill Cosby, but because of your Roger Ailes and his lawsuit as related to sexual harassment of Gresham Carlson, it quickly turned back to white men. And it turned back to white men because white women are hypergamous, and they see that the white man is the one who controls the economic and political power. And in the case of Andrew Cuomo, these white women saw an opportunity to seize power the same way they seized power from your Al Franken. Now, back a couple of years ago, Senator Al Franken was taken out of his Senate seat by a group of Me Too women who wanted to grab political power on the federal level. And I talked about that in a video a couple of years ago. And I remember a couple of other YouTubers saying that this was where the Me Too movement went too far. Now, this attempt to grab power was the thing that really started to scare a lot of the leftist feminists, because they were biting the hand that was feeding them. And usually the Me Too women, they are supported by the Democratic Party. And when they undermined that powerful senator, they wound up alienating their major ally and the person who was feeding them. So what happened in the case of Andrew Cuomo was another effort to go out here and take out another political player who had let himself be vulnerable because of his arrogance and overconfidence during the COVID 19 pandemic. Now, during the COVID 19 pandemic, your Andrew Cuomo had gotten extremely arrogant, extremely overconfident, and was so caught up in his feelings over Donald Trump that what happened was he just thought he could do anything because he was being elevated by the mainstream media and presented as a hero by those media platforms. However, as he was getting caught up in his feelings about Donald Trump and being the antithesis to Donald Trump, what was happening was he was letting down his guard around these women, and those women were going out here and keeping a score in order to grab power. So those women, they were playing chess while Andrew Cuomo was playing with them, and they were using the opportunities they had to document all of his touching and feeling and using it to create their case of sexual harassment. And this is something I try to warn a lot of men about in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, that you need to keep your distance from females in the workplace, because if you are too close to women in the workplace, it will create he said, she said situations. And in the gynocentric workplace, it will be next to impossible for you to prove that this person did something wrong as a man, because the whole system is meant to listen to everything a woman says and trust and believe it, because they go out here and they don't want to be held liable for sexual harassment or have to pay high damages for sexual harassment. So your Andrew Cuomo got extremely overconfident, extremely cocky, and this is what led to him putting
Well,
himself in this situation, and he wound up being taken completely out by these Me Too
let
women.
me ask you, let me ask you something right quick. Do you think, because I don't know if you saw, obviously, the report that was released by the AG, and obviously his attorney, who was a female, was poking through it. Did you know that the Times Up president had to resign because she represented him, and
Yes, it was a conflict of
it
interest.
was a conflict of interest? You're absolutely right. And I was laughing my butt off when I saw it, because the Times Up movement, they actually had to have several presidents, I believe, step down, not just this woman, but before that, the black woman who was a part of it.
She
She
said she left because her son got
her
caught
son
up in a
was
scandal.
her son was caught up in a scandal, and this was Roberta Kaplan, who was representing Cuomo. She is a lawyer, and she apparently was working with him and his brother also on how advising him on how to respond with this stuff. So she had to, let me put a picture up for everybody. She had to step down. But what did you think? Do you think, first off, that all of the women were telling the truth, or you thought that it was just he got caught up in his arrogance? Do you think that some of it, to me, it seems like a power grab as well? I'm not saying that some of those things could not be true that he was doing. He admitted, obviously, to doing some stuff, although he's denying, I guess, the intent. But I listened to it too, Shawn, and I'm looking at it from a perspective. You have now a woman who will be the next governor of New York, and I'm just thinking, is this part of even a bigger scheme? Because he didn't. No one touched on the nursing home scandal, like the letter said, like the editor said, like Flowers had said in this article.
I believe that these incidents probably did happen, and I believe that these women were playing chess, because a lot of these women in these type of environments, they know how to grab power, and they see opportunities and they take them. So I believe that they were capitalizing on the opportunities as related to this Andrew Cuomo's extreme arrogance. And females will do that if they see an opportunity to grab power, they're going to take it, and they'll use the leverage to try to control a guy And if they can't get what they want out of a deal on the side, then they go out here and make these type of claims, and they use those type of claims to grab power. Now, when it comes down to the first female governor, she has had a history of sliding into positions like this sideways. She slid into a congressional seat, I believe, the exact same way. Unfortunately, what happened was she got defeated and lost the seat. So this is a power grab, and it's a really poor power grab, because I believe what's going to happen is if they can get a good Republican challenger with a good agenda, or even a Democratic primary candidate, I believe this woman is going to get taken out either in the primary stage, or she's going to get taken out in by the Republican challenger. Because when you try to come in sideways to grab power, oftentimes you wind up getting kicked out because you don't really have a vision or a direction. And what these females want to do is they want to grab political power by using the sexual harassment approach. Unfortunately, many of these females don't really have a vision or a direction for where they want to go. They want the power, but they really can't handle the responsibility. And that's where a lot of these females wind up falling completely apart.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think, again, like as a general rule, as I said last week, people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. The governor, though, and it was a cringeworthy thing. He tried to explain everything and had all of these clips of all these various people he was hugging and kissing. I'm like, it looked bad. Like, really, dude? But he'd done better if he just kept quiet and said, I'm innocent and I want to wait till I have my day in court or whatever. But obviously couldn't say that part. But then when we look at it, I want to ask you this question. He's resigned. Do you think Chris Cuomo should resign, or at least be fired from CNN for his role? Because as I read the report, Shawn, it's a 1,000-page report. Now, of course, there may be holes in it, like his attorney had stated, because I believe his attorneys even pointed out that they didn't bother to check some resources or where they got their information from, especially the dates that were in question, because they could show that the person who gave the date and said this happened was not even on the registry when she entered the governor's mansion or on the list of some sorts. So how did she get in? But it says here, Chris Cuomo explained that there was discussion about remedial measures the chamber should take in light of the sexual harassment allegations, but some people had taken the position that they should just wait. Do you think Cuomo, well, let me ask you, do you think Chris Cuomo should be fired or resign from CNN?
I believe Chris Cuomo should resign from CNN, or if he doesn't resign, he should be terminated, because he has betrayed the standards of journalism. And your CNN is garbage anyway. I mean, they're just a propaganda network for the left, but he has betrayed the standards for journalism by going out here and showing clear bias for his brother and not really reporting on the story. I mean, if this is a story about my brother, what I'm going to do is recuse myself, because I'm going to have emotions involved, and that's going to make it where I cannot objectively report on the story. So he had a conflict of interest, and he should never have been reporting on his brother's stories, and he should never have been in that type of situation. If he was any sort of ethical journalist, he would have recused himself from those stories and asked to not be on those shows or to discuss those kind of topics. But what he did was not only go out here and cover his brother's stories, he tried to go out here and allegedly cover up
But he didn't cover his brother's stories.
Well, the whole thing is he had no business talking about any of it or even being involved in it.
Right.
And again, that's a conflict of interest. And that really shows us how bad CNN has gotten. And they talked about this in a Veritas report about how biased CNN is and how they just are just a shill place for the left. And this is one of the reasons why CNN's ratings have plummeted over the last 4 years, and practically nobody is watching CNN. But he just needs to go as well, because as long as he's there, no one will see CNN as credible. I mean, nobody sees CNN as credible anymore because people don't watch CNN anymore. But the longer he stays, the more damage it does to the brand, because instead of us seeing this as a journalistic news network, we see it as a place where opinion transcends news. and that the people who are participating in the so-called journalism are extremely biased.
Yes, DeAndre asked, do you think Jason Black's billboards had any influence on this? Uh, that's for you, Sean.
They did have some influence on New York from what I've seen in Facebook. A lot of people have been talking about Jason Black's billboards, and they've been talking about the message he's been sending. So they have resonated with a lot of New Yorkers here.
Yeah. So really, Professor Jason's billboards, honestly, two of the respective politicians, 2 out of 3 so far, have stepped down. You had Chris Cuomo, you had Lance Bottoms, or he calls her Bottoms Up, and you have Lori Lightfoot. Now, Keisha Bottoms, of course, said she will not run for re-election again. But was discussed, and I saw too, is that before she stepped out of office, she created a jobs commission for LGBTQ, so that they could get some jobs in Atlanta in city government. Nothing for black folks.
That's disgusting. I mean,
Even in Washington, D.C., Taisha, shout out to Sister Taisha Essex, she pointed out to me there's actually a task force for the Washington, D.C. Police Department for LGBTQ.
it's sad that you have black politicians who don't put black people first. And if they're doing that, then they're useless to us, because if you can't bring tangibles to your own people, then there's no reason to vote for any of these people. That's why
Yeah.
we have to pick our own candidates and not be handed these candidates by these leftist shills.
Yeah. Butterflies, I don't know if you're asking me or Sean this, so related to Michael Battle. I don't know the person.
I don't know him either.
Yeah. What about Chris Cuomo getting into fights with other people in public? Yeah, they call him Chris Fredo Cuomo. Uh, after The Godfather, and I remember he ranted saying that's an insult to your people. Fredo was a character, man. That's had nothing to do with Italians. That wasn't a slur. I mean, that's me, but I'm not Italian, obviously. So I just want to break a few balls, you know. What you get fresh for? Break a few balls, you know. Uh, no, I don't know, but yeah, but I remember when he got upset with that, and Trump kept calling him Fredo. Again, he didn't care. Yeah, but Fredo was the movie character. I know slurs that they call Italian people. That's offensive, but yeah, but I remember when he got in trouble with that, and I know people that were defending him. A lot of black people love defending him because he would go at Trump. But I remember when he had Jennifer Bolgene on his platform, who was Bill Cosby's lawyer, and he was basically telling every lie and falsehood about this case. He was cutting her off while she was trying to explain why this decision was made. And on top of that, as a lawyer, because he's a lawyer, if I am not mistaken, as a lawyer, someone who are even being around lawyers, because his brother and his father, Mario Cuomo, respectively, was a lawyer. He actually was saying all of this crap about, well, it wasn't a technicality, but he was still guilty. He still did this. He still did that. And ignoring the basis of that whole 79-page report that was given by the Supreme Court. That decision, not a report, excuse me, a decision. Due process is not a technicality. But nevertheless, it is what it is. I think Chris Cuomo should step down or should be fired at least. I don't care for him as a journalist. I think he's too biased. But then again, CNN, I don't really watch him. When it comes on, when my folks are watching it, I go in the other room. So that's what I do. So Trump must be popping the champagne right now. What else we got talking about tonight, Sean? So that's all I had to say about Andrew Cuomo and so forth. So I take it, Sean, you're not happy about Ms. Hochul, Lieutenant Governor Hochul, becoming the new governor.
No, I'm not happy about NPC Hochul because I don't believe she's going to last that long. Like David Patterson didn't last that long after Elliot Spitzer, because this lieutenant governor, I believe she is just a bot and has no real vision or direction for the state, which is already in really bad shape. And they're going to need to build up a new candidate. And I don't think the Democrats have anybody strong enough. And if there's not anything going, if they can't get anybody together, I believe that New York State is going to go red as part of what I call the 2022 bloodbath.
Right. And then it shows the hypocrisy of the Times Up movement, Me Too, because their very leaders, like we said, the Kaplan lady, and also the new president that's coming in, the CEO, Tina Techman, she apologized for supporting Cuomo before in the past, but they drafted the letter, the whole group drafted the letter denying allegations that one Lindsey Boylan made against Cuomo. So a lot of these people are getting exposed for the hypocrites that they are with regards to this. And I think this movement needs to die off.
Well, let's move these leftists. That's the way they are. There's like one of the guys on the comic book video said, SJWs always eat their own. So after they destroy the person that they disagree with, they go out here and start destroying each other. So usually you have these movements like Me Too, and what they do is they implode over time. It's like they take out the people they wanted to take out, and then they start taking out each other. And that's in most cases, all you have to do is just step aside and let these guys self-destruct. And that's what's happening to the left right now. And that's why I say we're in the middle of a Democrat implosion.
Yeah. All right. So those articles you can look at, that's the report from the AG's office. It's like 1,000 pages. If you have time to read it when you can, you could. No, it's 168 pages actually. Long enough. You can check out the article from the New York Post on Curtis Sliwa, who is running for the is a Republican candidate running for mayor out in New York. We're going to be talking about some more mayors in a minute. Someone said my volume is low. Sounds like they can hear me now. Shaw can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, Boss Queenie. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, guys. So next thing I want to talk about, Sean, I guess we'll get started into this. Some new mandates in my home city of New Orleans. It was announced earlier today that our TD, as these are our mayor, Latoya Cantrell, had announced some new mandates that are going to go into effect on August 16th of this year. This is in regards to vaccines and the new Delta variant that is out with COVID-19. They're requiring New Orleans businesses to requiring patrons to either produce proof of vaccination or negative test to enter in bars, enter into the Superdome for the Saints games and other indoor venues. These even include fitness centers. So New Orleans residents and visitors will need to show proof of a COVID-19 vaccination or a negative test. I got to be careful with my words, of course, but I'm reading the article. The citywide, she announced this on Thursday, the citywide vaccine mandate, one of the first in the United States, will take effect on Monday, and enforcement will begin August 23rd. So it's not a law, it is a mandate. It comes amid a surge in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations across Louisiana that's been driven by the highly transmissible Delta variant and the state's woefully low vaccination rate. We're here today because we really have no choice. The situation is dire, and we are simply out of time. So This includes eating and drinking establishments, upcoming Saints games. The rules are also going to be enforced at strip clubs, gyms, casinos, racetracks. I don't know about racetracks are not indoors; they're outdoors. But I guess you can go inside of a racetrack. Yes, it's possible. It's also going to cover outdoor gatherings of more than 500 people if the total attendance is greater than the 50% of the venue's capacity. They also say masks will continue to be required. Um, of course, we've had hospitals that have been overwhelmed with patients. Nearly, they say, are all unvaccinated, and cases have skyrocketed. She says, "I do expect to be cease more in compliance. We aren't seeing the same level of pushback that we experienced on the front of this," Cantrell said, referring to restrictions she imposed last year. She said enforcement will be aggressive, but the details are still being worked out. So this is, of course, they've had to cancel Jazz Fest this past fall, which was supposed to come this fall. A few other festivals were canceled, including the Red Dress Race that they had. It was supposed to be last week. This is one of the first of its kind in the city of New Orleans, something we haven't seen in the United States. New York and San Francisco, of course, they have enacted some mandates, and supposedly Los Angeles is enacting a mandates as well. Uh, you have to show, if you're an unvaccinated person, you need to show a negative PCR test from within the last 72 hours. So, in other words, you go out, if you're not going to be vaccinated, you're going to have to get a test, probably what, every 3 days, it seems, before you go out somewhere. Now, I'm going to be careful with what I talk about the uh, injections or the injectables now, because I do not want my channel censored. And also, I am not going to judge anybody if they get the vax of the injectable or not. It's your body, it's your choice. You can do what you want. I've never seen anything like this. And what I would wish that the mayor would issue a mandate would actually be a bulletproof mandate, because I'm more worried about the crime and violence that goes on in my community, as well as the lack of economic development. But uh, boss DeAndre said, "What do you think of TD's chances of re-election, given pushback from City Hall movement to Congo Square, handling the pandemic, Six Flags proposal, etc.?" Well, let me get Shawn to respond to this, and also comparison with what's going on in New York, and I'll answer that question after he's finished, DeAndre.
I don't think that these mandates are constructive because what they do is they polarize people. Now, the approach that the left has been using to try to get shots into arms has actually been very detrimental. They've been try to coerce people into taking these pins, and they've been trying to coerce people into taking these pins, and it doesn't really get people to see the benefits of it. Now, they say that they are desperate to do this because the numbers are surging, but we had a surge during the fall of 2020, and there was none of this franticness as related to that surge, but there's all of this franticness to this surge because I believe that your leftist politicians' approval ratings are starting to drop, and a lot of them are scared of looking like they didn't do anything. But their approach is not really effective in getting people to trust this jab. Now, if they wanted to go out here and get more shots into arms, coercion is not the way you go about it. The way you go about it is being extremely transparent. And that's what people want from their government. They want that transparency, and they want to be able to trust that this medicine that they're telling people to take will do what it does. So, what we needed was more peer review studies presented to people from sources, and we needed transparency as related to the ingredients. But you cannot force people to go out here and take something that they, one, don't know the ingredients of, and two, there's no real FDA approval outside of that experimental emergency use mandate, because the mandates, all that does again is it just makes those people dig in their heels even further, and that does further economic damage, because what you're doing is creating a situation like they did with prohibition, where they left money on the table as related to the prohibition of alcohol, and that allowed opportunists to come in like organized crime and create black markets. And a lot of these guys are thinking short term with these kind of policies, but they don't see the long term damage that they're doing because they're so caught up in their emotions about things that they're not thinking critically about how to handle this situation. All they're looking at is the surge as related to the numbers, but they're not really thinking critically about the needs of the people. Because if this surge is so dire, then all government institutions need to step in and bring in the US military doctors, bring in the tents, bring in the resources like we did that were wasted, like here in New York, the USNS Comfort, the Javits Center, because if it's overwhelming the hospitals, then we need to take the efforts to take the heat off the hospitals and, again, not keep pressing and pushing, because when you press and push the way I have seen them approach this, what it does is, again, it just polarizes people, and it does not get you the sort of support that you want for this. If you want to get support from the people as related to the pin, then you have to go out here and show them that this is a safe and effective medicine. And the way you do that is by saying that the FDA is going to approve this medicine and not threaten people's economic situation, not threaten their employment, not punish people for something that they have every right to question. No, you have to build a bridge of trust. And instead of building a bridge of trust, what they're doing is getting angry at people and not understanding that the very same people you're getting angry with are American citizens, and those American citizens can vote you right out of office.
Hmm. Well, what I would say to this, let me backtrack to, let me answer, let me talk about this, and then I'm going to answer DeAndre's question about TD's chances of reelection. Uh, I know of people who have contracted uh, the woo woo, as what Torian Rain would call it. I'm talking about close family friends of mine. I know of people who have contracted and been in the hospital. So the virus is very real. I also know of people who contracted it and didn't go to the hospital. I also know people who didn't get the shot or didn't get the injectable and went into the still and they still went into the hospital, like a story I read, and he survived. And I know people have taken it, they haven't had any side effects, but I have seen stories where some people have had side effects. So honestly and truthfulness, it depends on that person. It depends on their body. Everybody is different. Bodies react differently to any type of medication or anything that you put in your body, because your immune system automatically will attack a foreign object. That's just the way it is. What I will say, though, I think people have to make the best decisions for themselves, but I do not like coercion or use of threats and force either, to force people to decide what they want to do with their body. And I find it funny how we're in a position right now, Shawn, where we live in a society that says it's okay for a mother to kill her unborn child, her fetus. And when people complain about it and say, "Well, that's the child. You're killing the child," they say, "My body, my choice," right? But here we have people who are on the left who are essentially doing vice versa. They want you to get this regardless if you say, "My body, my choice." So I do not like this coerciveness and this use of fear mongering, because truthfully speaking, as you pointed out, if the elected officials were to be and leaders were to be more transparent, if they were to honestly tell us what the deal is about what's going on. Uh, you know, yeah, I would have more respect because it keeps changing every day, Sean, with regards to it's not consistent. Is overall is what I'm saying.
It hasn't been
It
consistent since
hasn't
the
been
Trump
consistent
presidency.
since it started. So I would have more respect if you said, I didn't know what I'm doing, or we have no true information to give you at this point. We're trying. I would have more respect for that than I would you trying to coerce or force me. And essentially, they're going to also lose business.
Yeah,
People are not, honestly, New Orleans is a tourist destination. There are going to be people who are not comfortable with this. That's how New Orleans makes its money. It makes money on tourism. I don't know
and
about New York and
New
how
York
they.
makes its money on tourism too, and we've lost the
Right.
New York Auto Show, and we're possibly going to lose New York Comic Con. And many tourists I have watched online have said they're not coming to the city because many of the tourists say they cannot get that New York Excelsior pass or that New York app to work, so they have no incentive to come here. And this is just again, it polarizes people, and it just makes people tense.
Let me
And
see your papers.
yeah,
This is. I'm sorry, but that's how it comes. That's essentially what we're doing. That's essentially what's going on. Let me see your papers. This is just like the. I don't want to compare it to the Third Reich, but we're in the
that's where we are.
yeah, and
And that creates black markets, and that creates, because when you leave money on the table like that, somebody is going to come in and make the money, and that's something nobody's thinking critically about, because that's what happened during the pandemic when they closed everything. We had a lot of black market raves opening up, a lot of people opening their bars secretly, and it wasn't stopping anything. It just created a bigger problem. So I think the approach really needs to change as related to things, because this approach is not really stopping anything. If anything, we need to, everybody just needs to, just as I see it, take a chill pill and stop feeling and start thinking, because everybody's coming from that place of frustration and anger. And when you come from emotion, you make irrational decisions that do damage to whatever you're trying to accomplish.
yeah, and honestly, I think we're headed to a civil war right now
Yeah, I
because
saw that a
we're
year ago.
we're pushing the vax versus the unvaxxed.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, everybody, for a second. I mean, if you want to if you choose to get vax, that's fine. No, I'm not in the medical field, enslaved Negro Jews. Are you? And that's another thing. People who are not in the medical field, you know, if you're somebody on YouTube just saying all this stuff and spouting something and sharing videos, because some of it is crazy, I don't pay attention to that. I have family members who are in the medical field who told me about how vaccines work. So I have some knowledge of it. Uh, I have family members who are, my dad is a pharmacist. He's been on this platform before. He knows about how they work, what's different about them, how they work, how viruses mutate, and so forth. And that's why you're getting all of these different variants. And okay, you're in the medical field. Well, I hear different. Well, I don't know exactly from if you're a doctor or whatnot, but I know doctors who've explained it to me. And that's all I can go on. I can go on with people in the medical who work in the medical field and explain to me, just like I know the legal field. I can explain the legal field to somebody who, as a lawyer who is not better than someone who I think is not in the legal field. Although there are people who are real educated with stuff, and I'm not saying that they aren't. There may be some out there who know laws word for word better than I can, who can spit it, but they can't practice law and so forth. So we have to be careful, and we have to speak in code. We have to be careful what we say because, uh, I know that they have had that arranged. I believe that was the J&J injectable. I see your question in it. And I do know the J&J had to be pulled over concerns. This was a few months back, I think, over concerns of blood clots. They pulled it for a little bit. So a lot of people are. I'm trying to be careful here. So if I'm not going to mention or mention everything that you're saying. All right, but yeah, that has been. I have heard of some things like that. Uh, you say Quebec has implemented an injectable passport, Tyree. King BJ, Brother Bernard says Civil War is coming soon. Uh, look, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, if you have not bought a gun, now's the time to get one. Should have gotten it months ago. I'm not, and I gotta be careful with my words because I'm not inciting violence or anything, but I do believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in self-defense. So my bottom line is, guys, use your best judgment. Use what you. Don't let me sway you. Don't let Shawn sway you. Don't let your family even sway you. Use what you think. What is it you want to do? That's the best thing I can say. The other thing I'll say too, with regards, let me answer DeAndre's question. Do I think Mayor Cantrell will get reelected? I honestly think, even in spite of all of this, brother, she will likely get reelected. And let me tell you why. New Orleans is a predominantly black, of course, black city, but we do not control the wealth in this city. And most of the time, especially our people especially those that vote, who are in the older age bracket here in New Orleans, I don't think they care about necessarily what's going on in the community. They're just set in their ways. And the candidates that I'm seeing that she's running against, a lot of people are not interested in those guys. It's not as popular. And that's another thing. She's popular because she's been on social media with the phase 2 remark. I remember they put it to a bounce mix. I mean, people don't care. I mean, personally, I pay attention to what's going on in my community. The lack of economic development, what I'm seeing here in New Orleans East, what happened with this Jazzland, Passport, Six Flags. They're trying to bring in, Shawn, I don't know if you noticed, but they're trying to bring Drew Brees' thing in and make it a part of revitalizing Six Flags, and he wants to put farming out here. We don't need no damn farms.
It's just a government cash grab at the expense of the people.
They want him a part of it, and people didn't even support that. They want him a part of this whole thing. And even at the meeting, more people voted in favor of, and I'm guilty of it too, of this new water park they want to put out, although I probably shouldn't have done it because I think it's a cover for a lot of stuff as well. But nevertheless, he's waiting. They want Drew Brees a part of this. People didn't vote for this shit. Nope. They didn't even vote for it, and they're still trying to make it a part of the plan. That's the thing that gets me. You go against what the people say. You're going against what we voted for. You still want him because he was the savior that brought you your first Super Bowl. What has that done for New Orleans East? What has that done for the Lower Ninth Ward? What has that done for Pontchartrain Park? Not a damn thing.
That's the thing. Black folks vote on feelings, not on tangibles. They don't vote on agenda. They vote on feelings, and that's how they get taken advantage of.
Actually, Andre, Bayou Phoenix, so I can go in on that, but that's something different. The actual better choice, I had voted in favor of it, but I would rather than bring Jazzland back, honestly. I thought that would have been a better tourist attraction. Certainly, a lot of people have issues because even with Bayou Phoenix, back there in Littlewood, where the trucks, they want to put a truck stop there as well. People don't want truck stops running through those small streets because that's going to be a nuisance. But essentially, if they had made it an attraction, we tried to actually get we looked into whether not Six Flags, SeaWorld could come out there, but around that time, they had that big scandal with regards to that Shamu that swallowed that woman and dragged her at the bottom of the tank to uh, her death. You remember that?
I don't remember that.
Y'all remember Shamu that killed the killer whale that killed the woman?
No, I never. I did. I don't really pay that much attention to.
It was I think it was out in San Diego. It was back in 2006. But yeah, those things. The first name is Killer. Enough said. Don't don't mess with it. Sean, somebody said laugh out loud. Sean is laughing. Yeah, Sean's laugh. Very rare. But no, I've got him to laugh a few times, though, especially on here. But no, yeah, well, it's the same thing with Bill Clinton playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall show. When he did that, oh, that's my president. Oh, look, he know how to play Green Tomatoes by Booker T and the MGs, all this stuff. Like, that's everybody. That's what everybody cared about, man. Nobody cares about the issues. Bill Clinton did more to harm blacks in terms of policies than any other president in the last 30 years. His policies have hurt. Look at what happened, and I wanted to talk about this too. I guess we could segue. I have some other stuff I want to talk about, but this reminds me, Shawn, what I read earlier. I don't know if you all have seen this, but I'm gonna move on from the mandates. We'll talk about that a little later, maybe on another broadcast. But let's move on. Someone posted this. I shared it, and you commented on it. This comes from the New York Post. Now, I want you all to look at this. All right. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please hit and donate to that Cash App. Hit that Cash App at the bottom. We're live with Brother Shawn James, author of The Man Crisis and the John Haynes series. You can check out his books on Amazon.com. John Haynes, Taking Care of Business and Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. Those are his two latest books. Hit the Cash App, please, if you could, or the Super Chat. Let me show you, Shawn, this and everybody here. I forgot to put this as a topic, but I want y'all to take a look because this ties into Bill Clinton. I've talked about this before. Y'all see this? Viacom CBS waiting for other suitors, sources say. Now, I talked about this before on our channel when we talked about the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Now, for those of you who don't know what that act is, I suggest you read it, but in 1996, the Bill Clinton, who was president, signed into law a bill that was passed that essentially ended monopoly laws across the country. Now, there are still antitrust laws in the United States that have been set, but essentially what it did was it allowed bigger corporations to buy other corporations and form large conglomerates. So, for instance, you had New Line Cinema, which was an independent film company, that was built basically off of the back of Freddy Krueger and The Mask, and movies like that. But Freddy Krueger, of course, built it. And then you had, of course, other movies that came out after it, like the House Party series Friday. They're now owned by Warner Brothers. So they formed together, and Warner Brothers took them over. And now it's the Time Warner Company. I believe they also own AOL, if I'm not mistaken. That merged with that. Same thing when you look at the wrestling companies, like the largest wrestling company in the world, of course, is the World Wrestling Entertainment Organization, or as it was formerly called, WWF. What did they do? They started to buy up WCW, NWA, and a few other wrestling organizations at that time. And what you see now, this article states that Sherry Redstone is hitting pause on a potential partnership. Look at this carefully. Talks between her media company Viacom CBS and NBC owner Comcast in hopes of lining up more suitors, the Post has learned. The billionaire Harris, who serves as chairman of Viacom CBS, yes, that Viacom CBS that owns CBS Network, Paramount Network. We also have Paramount Plus. You have what's a couple others, Sean? Comedy Central, Nickelodeon. Okay, the so she decided to hold off until next year before reengaging in talks with Comcast Brian Roberts. Comcast owns NBC, so NBC is in talks basically of merging with CBS, from what I'm reading.
Similar to the Disney Fox merger.
Right. So basically, NBC and CBS, I think they'll still be two different networks, but all the money is going to the same parent company. Right?
Yeah, it's going to the same parent company. But a lot of these companies are in bad shape. I mean, the reason why they're talking about merging is that that's like what Les Moonves, the former head of CBS, he saw the same thing on the chessboard that I saw when he left. Now, you're Sherry Redstone, and she one of the reasons they was trying to get Les Moonves out, and Les Moonves is a slime ball. They get him out because they wanted to she wanted to merge her company, CBS and Viacom together. And the reason why your Les Moonves left is because he knew it was a sinking ship. And what we're seeing right now is with the legacy media, the empire of Hollywood media starting to crumble because these companies have gotten so big and bloated that they cannot really adapt to the changing media situation. Now, after the telecommunications bill of 96 passed and we got all of these networks merging with each other, what happened was we started to see a decline in quality. The same thing happened with the WWF when they bought WCW and ECW. The quality of the wrestling started to decline. The stories started to decline because there was no competition. And because there's no competition, what is happening now is that your TV has gotten really stale, ratings have plummeted, and the viewers are no longer watching television anymore. No, most of the viewers are now headed towards online platforms like YouTube to watch people like yourself and I on live streams. And they're not interested in watching any more of this mainstream media. That can be reflected in CNN's plummeting ratings. Many of the TV networks right now are struggling. I mean, the Olympics had its worst ratings ever. The Oscars, all these major events, they used to score 30, 40 million viewers back in the 90s. Many of these platforms are struggling right now because of bad decisions made, such as the Telecommunications Bill of 96, which consolidated media, and the decision for TV to go digital in 2009. Those two decisions wound up making the media situation we have now, because once TV went digital, people no longer had the incentive to have their eyeballs glued to a regular television, one, and two, because they put so many sub channels on, what happened was the viewer wound up overwhelmed by their choices. So they wound up leaving mainstream television and heading over to YouTube, where they could not only get choices, but they could get fresh content. Because while you had sub channels on mainstream TV, a lot of it was just reruns of reruns of reruns, and people wanted fresh content. And content is king when it comes down to the media. So there was fresh content on YouTube. YouTubers make fresh content every week. So people had more incentive to go watch those shows than watch the mainstream shows. And that's why legacy media is in trouble. And your Les Moonves knew this when he got kicked out of CBS. He knew it was a depreciating asset because in the year he was kicked out, the Big Bang Theory, their top show, was on its last season. And many of the shows that he had went out here and established the network on to make it number one, a lot of those shows were depreciating assets. They were in the fifth year of their development in some cases, and some shows had like NCIS were basically almost 20 years old. So he gave Sherry Redstone, while she was able to get her father's companies back together, she got a depreciating asset, and now she knows how valueless that asset is. So now she's trying to get out with by trying to sell the network to NBC because she knows it's a lemon. And anybody who knows media knows that your entertainment industry is in a serious state of decline. I mean, Hollywood is not making as many movies as it did in the 80s. We don't have the competition like at the small studios to be able to create the box office hits like the low budget horror movies or the movies like House Party. So they're not all they're making is big budget superhero movies and franchises. So the Hollywood is in a bad shape. The entertainment industry is in a bad shape. It's about to crash, and she wants to get out before it crashes, but she's stuck with a depreciating asset, and she's hoping maybe I'll push it off on Comcast, but Comcast is already bloated and overweight, just like your Discovery Time Warner is a bloated, overweight oligarchy. And the same thing with Disney. All of these companies are hemorrhaging cash because their enterprise is just too big and too bloated, and they cannot adapt to the changing marketplace by creating the cheap, low budget content that practically made networks very wealthy in the 70s and the 80s. And they can't make that, all they can make are these big budget superhero movies and big budget epics, similar to what happened in the 60s. So the network, the legacy media is in a lot of trouble. And I'm going to talk about that more in a live stream I'm going to do tomorrow night at 11 p.m. But they're in a bad place right now. And she's trying to get out while the getting is good. And
This
this
is the
whole,
owner of BET.
yeah, they're all in a bad place. I mean, they're all in a terrible place right now. They don't want to admit they're in a bad place, but anybody who studied the media like I have and the former executive Les Moonves has, they know how bad it is. And they know that this is the whole TV media platforms are getting ready to collapse. So they want to get out while the getting is good and get out with as much money as they can.
Right. Well, guys, I put this up. This is the owner of BET, VH1, MTV. If you ever wondered why the BET Awards are playing on MTV and VH1, there's your answer. Centric
And
Network, she owns this. So you have a monopoly. Basically, every channel that you can think of, popular channel, this woman owns, and she's an heiress to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And what Shawn is saying, he's correct in a sense that Hollywood has become bloated because I think of Disney. Disney acquired not only Marvel Comics, they've acquired Star Wars, the Star Wars franchise. They've acquired also National Geographic. Let's not forget 20th Century Fox. That's no longer exists anymore.
no,
They don't call it 20th Century Fox no more. Now it's 20th Television or 20th Films. So the Aliens movies, the Predator movies, that's all owned by the House of Mouse. Star Wars, the Marvel Comics. You think about that.
and the quality of all of it has fallen because there's no competition to get people creative. Because what makes America strong is competition, and when there is no competition, nobody has an incentive to do better. Now, in contrast, I will talk about the independent comic book market that's emerging as a result of all of this consolidation. And we have individuals, and because every individual is fighting for the dollars of the comic fans who go out here and support Indiegogos or Kickstarters, what we see are the creators getting really creative and giving us a diverse array of stories. And that's because when you have competition, people have an incentive to do better. But when you have big bloated corporations where everybody's afraid to take a risk because they don't have to compete, what happens is that those companies never give you the best. They just give you mediocre product like we got with the MCU after a couple of movies. And with what we're getting with a lot of the Warner Brothers superhero movies, you just get mediocre product. And you get that because there's no incentive to do better, no incentive to take risks, no incentive to challenge yourself. And that's one of the cornerstones of America is competition. And when we signed that telecommunications bill in 96, we killed competition as related to the media. And without that competition, there's no way for our media to grow. And that's why everything is imploding as we speak.
Yeah. Do you see a end? Do you see a final end to any of this stuff? You think more people? I find they're going on, of course, watching stuff online now. Like they like watching us. They like watching Professor Black Truth. They like watching Torian Rain and Jason Black, Tariq Nasheed, Nicole's View, a host of others. I think this is a perfect time, and someone put in the chat, it's a perfect time for new black media. We should start emerging with trying to bring some content into the market. You think about this, for instance, you look at where Amazon has grown, where Amazon, you would have never thought Amazon would have been this multi-billion-dollar company when Jeff Bezos was selling CDs out of his car garage and so forth, and different supply his garage and different supplies. He's now wealthiest person in the world. Well, he was, but that's a divorce joke reference. You know that. But same thing with Bill Gates. It's not just him, but they got money to burn anyway. But yeah, but my point is that new black media can emerge and create something. Shout out to, I forgot who was in the chat who said that. It was Tyree who said this. B1 Media to rise up, absolutely, and to have something real. Not that Black News Channel. Black News Channel is not even owned by. It's owned by Tony Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's one of the people that owns it. The other thing too is that we really don't have. I guess the only black network you can say that we truly have would be a TV One, which is owned by Kathy Hughes. Although their content has fallen off lately to some degree. You would argue you think Tyler Perry would be a great source to bring in movies and so forth, but Tyler Perry, of course, his movies, his television shows, especially the sister show, have been garbage as of late. The acting is horrible. The storylines are weak. And most importantly, the makeup and wigs are cheap. So the acting is weak, storylines leak, and the wigs and costumes are cheap. But let's try and get something.
Okay. Well, I think that new black media is going to take over because people are watching and listening to new black media. I mean, I get a lot of views. I mean, the last couple of live streams I've built a lot. I see my audience growing. So people are going where the content is, and on the internet, content is king. And new black media is giving black viewers the kind of content that they want. What black people want to see are different viewpoints, like black men now have a forum online to express their issues. And we're seeing more topics being discussed that we could not get discussed in the days of Oprah Winfrey when she had a stranglehold on the black narrative. So we're seeing new black media start to emerge as a dominant force, and new black media is starting to have influence. And that's something legacy media does not like, because more people are listening to new black media like you and I and Torian Rains and Mr. Superboys and Professor Black Truths. And if we could start raising money, I believe we could start producing movies and television, and we really wouldn't need people like Tyler Perry or Lee Daniels. I mean, as a screenwriter, if I could raise the money, I would be doing an All About Nikki show, sitcom about a black girl in Beverly Hills, or one of my other projects. Because if we go out here and create our own media, then we don't have to follow the narrative of the mainstream media. It's similar to what I saw with many of the independent comic creators out here. Many of the independent comic creators said that they were tired of the social justice and far left narratives presented in legacy mainstream media. And what they did was started creating their own comic books. And now many of those guys are millionaires. Some of them are making high six figures, and others are making high five figures on Kickstarters and Indiegogos. So people are making their own content. And this is what scares those in the legacy media. Nobody is listening to those voices in the mainstream media anymore. Nobody is buying the products. And this is what got a lot of these people terrified, is they no longer have the pulse of the community, and they're really scared that they don't have the pulse of the black community, because the black dollar is very important to them. But most black people, they don't want to listen to legacy media because it disrespects us by going out here and producing content that breathes brand new life in the old stereotypes, like black men being criminals, black men being abusers, black men being brutes, or media that goes out here like Little Nas X that effeminizes the black man. So you're not giving the customer what they want. And this is something that many of the comic book fans were saying about the content. And because they weren't getting what they want, they just left and went somewhere else. And that's what's happening with new black media. A lot of the black viewers are saying, I'm not getting the content that I want from the mainstream media. And they're going to go and make their own content.
Right. We got somebody who said that computer robot, shout out to him. What's up, man? What I love about new black media is that they're not afraid to tell the cold-hearted truth about America and opening people's eyes. Yes, most definitely. Bossa Queenie says that BNC will never get my support. Mainstream media has their agenda that you have to add to your content in order to get greenlit. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So this is the time to rise up, guys. This is the time for you all to support new black media, because this is all we have here. Even in mainstream media, they're doing a piss poor job, and it reflects because nobody's watching the content. Look how bad even the Suicide Squad movie, and I thought the Suicide Squad movie sequel was a far step better than even the Suicide Squad film, but it flopped. It only made $30 million at the box office, and I know some people are watching at home too on HBO Max. I have seen it. I thought it was a good movie, but that's the type of stuff we deal with, and I'll do a review on that this week. I know Shawn has one. A couple of movies I'm going to do some reviews on. I'm going to check out the Don't Breathe 2 movie this weekend, so I'll let y'all know how that is. Now you're going to see what I see. But yeah, but now is the time. So my final comment, that's a good one, Tyree. BNC is a poor version of Viacom's BET. Final comment I wanted to talk about is this incident that happened in Georgia. I don't know if you have seen this, but there was a mental health call, and the police were called out, and they attacked this black man with their dog. A dog essentially bit and attacked this guy. This happened back in July. Back in July of this year. I have this written right here. This is from Yahoo News. Attorneys for a black man in Alpharetta, Georgia, said their client will file a lawsuit following an incident in which he was viciously attacked by a police dog while being taken into custody. And one that proves again that cops have no business answering calls regarding unarmed citizens suffering a mental health crisis. WSB TV reports that last Sunday, this article is from July 30th, that last Sunday, Alpharetta police were called to the home of Travis Moyer because he was reportedly having a mental health crisis. It's unclear why Moyer was being arrested in the first place. His attorney said the police knew they were responding to a mental health call. There was no reason for him to be detained or arrested, but instead of an ambulance, showing up. 8 officers showed up, Attorney Gerald Griggs said. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, it was his wife who called, captured the video that shows Moya speaking with officers while handcuffed and appearing to struggle with them slightly as she pleaded with him to calm down. So she called the cops on him. And Tariq Nasheed even pointed out and went out how this happened. And basically, I saw the video from what she was trying to do. And you got to realize, people, whenever you call the police on, especially on a loved one, the police department is not trained. They are not trained to deal with mentally disturbed patients. They're trained, number one, to protect their safety, which means shoot first, ask questions later. Now, I'm laughing at that, but it's not, of course, it's not funny, situations like that. But we know that these things happen. And luckily, the brother wasn't killed. But I want to show the video. I guess I don't know how long this clip is. So he's talking. This is a 55-second clip. This is the phone, but you got to see the body camera footage of it. The body camera footage actually shows this officer, which looks like he was trying to instigate this whole thing.
Travis, stop!
Now he's on the ground.
Calm down! No! No! Travis, stop! Please, Jesus. Travis! Come on!
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And she's crying and so forth, like Weezy Jefferson, but like Florida Evans, but she was the one that started and initiated this. This is coming from also now, this is WSB TV News. They did an article on it. Well, let me show you the video. I know the attorney, L. Christopher Stewart, who is representing Rayshard Brooks' family, I believe, out in Atlanta. This is actually, okay, so that's the video. These are the wounds to his shoulder, to his arm, that you can see where the dog bit him. They're very graphic. If the call was about mental, now this is what they're reporting too. They said, obviously when someone calls in about a mental health crisis, a K-9 unit should not be the one that responds to it, said attorney Madeline Simmons, who is also representing Moya. There's a breakdown there in training and the process and policies that they have in this police department. Alpharetta's K-9 policy says the dog's handlers may only use a degree of force reasonable and necessary to apprehend or secure a suspect. That policy also instructs the department's handlers to exhaust all reasonable means to effect an apprehension without incurring a canine bite. In addition, department policy requires officers to intervene if they witness an improper use of force. You did not see that. They did not state why he was even being handcuffed or arrested. He was, according to what I'm reading here, he was released a few hours. They booked him and charged him on a felony count of obstruction. Obstructing what? If you watch the video, the actual video, I don't know if that happened in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I've watched it, and Tariq put it on there. They had the body cam. This officer was looking to instigate this entire situation. He escalated it. He escalated it without question. This is the video here.
How's it going, man?
Shawn.
What? We're just
I'm pulling
here
for
to make
Shawn
sure
so you can
everything's
watch it.
okay. 461, step it up. He's being disorderly.
Now look, he says he's being disorderly. He deployed. This is a mental health call. This is not a domestic violence situation. This is not a crime. No crime has been committed to the police officer's knowledge. There's no bomb alert. There's no drugs. Nothing. This is an issue over mental health, and this is what happens. Now I'm not gonna play all of it.
Hey,
but
just calm down, man. It's okay. We're just here to help out. We're just here to help out. Yeah.
Okay, so my son calls. I think he got scared. I don't know if he's sick or anything or something, but he's not his normal self, and he's like breathing hard. And
Sir, just stay back there, okay? I do have a canine, sir. If you come up on me, he's gonna bite you, okay? Okay.
I do have a canine, sir. If you come up on me, he's gonna bite you. Now, this is this man's house. He's in his driveway. How is he threatening him?
I'm just letting you know. It hurts, okay? So just stay back there.
So you heard that? It
I just
hurts.
got on the phone with the lady that he was talking to.
Stay back there,
I
sir.
told her.
Does he normally take anything?
No, so I don't know if he took, like, he had the pen thing or whatever every once in a blue moon, but he had to get like some weed or something, and I don't know if it was bad or what. He's never been like this. We've been together for 2 years, and I've never seen him like this ever in my life. So I don't know if it's something mental that slipped or what, but he is not in his right mind whatsoever. He is completely.
So he punched stuff in the house and everything?
Well, he punched the outside wall, and he threw down the chair. But
I'm code 4 right now, but he's standing in the driveway balling up his fist and being disorderly. So I'm just standing by talking to the wife.
And all this other stuff. I think something mentally happened.
I know.
So,
I got you. Boss man, listen, we're here to help. We're here to help.
You can't reason with him. He's just like really.
You're being up here for no reason. Hey, just be advised, I'm gonna pop the door if he comes up. So.
Hey, what's this here to talk? What's going on, man? What's going on?
Hey, ma'am, can you come here? Can you come here? So we're here now. We have to deal with it. We want to try to de-escalate, which is not happening, but allegedly we have crimes that have been committed in the house, right?
Well,
Or it's his house?
Yeah, it's his house. So,
okay. So he just punched walls and stuff?
He just punched the outside mantle here. But I don't know if it's a mix of alcohol and something else, but.
Hey, I'm gonna get the dog out. Ma'am, go stand by your front door. Watch him. Watch him. Watch him. Watch him, Aries. Watch him. Watch him. 461, just be advised, K9s deployed.
Hey, sir, come here. Sir, don't go back in the house.
Can y'all come either go over here? Hey, sir, I need you to come over here and talk to me. Sir, you can't get up. Sir, come talk to us. Come here. Come here. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Don't fight with us or the dog will bite you. Don't fight with us or the dog will bite you.
No. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. It's okay. It's okay. Who called you, brother? Who called you? Brother, who called you? Hold on.
So he's on the ground.
Hey, look out. Look out. Get him, Mary. Get him. Pocket. No. Los. Ow. Get on the ground. Get on
Get this dog off of me! Ow! Ow! I didn't do nothing to you. Ow! Get this dog off of me, sir! Ow, brother! Get this dog off of me! Ow! Get this dog off of me!
Used the dog in the first place. The dog had no business being used on this man, period. He was already down on the ground. It was not a situation where a canine unit should have been called. This officer, you listen to the stuff he made, the comments he made, he basically escalated this entire situation. He escalated this. And his wife, I would divorce her like today. The paper, even if it is a sin, I know divorce is frowned upon in the church, but you just basically tried to have me killed. What are you all thinking when you call the cops? He has a mental issue. Call Bellevue. Call a mental hospital. Call a doctor.
Ow! Ow! Get this dog off of me, please! Get this dog off of me, sir! I warned you! Several warnings! Ow! Please get this dog off of me! Please! Please get this dog off of me! Please get this dog off of me! Ow! Please get this dog off of me! Brother, please get this dog off of me! Please get this dog off of me! Please! Please get this dog off of me!
I don't know what this piece of shit says later. Listen carefully.
Good boy. Hey, come here.
Good boy.
Come here, hey. Hey. There you go. There you go. Come here. Come here. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Oh, he wanted him some more of that dog meat.
Good boy. Good boy.
Good boy. And I should be careful with my words about whether she wanted to kill her husband, but when you call the police, you're putting them in a life or death situation. Let's just put it that way. And you rat on him saying, well, I think he's been on drugs, saying it's basically giving them license to that effect. Shawn, when you watch this video, it was clearly disturbing by what I saw. What do you make of it? And especially with regards to the wife.
I was extremely disturbed by this video, but sadly, this isn't the first time I've seen this type of video. I used to watch the show Cops back in the 90s, and we've seen many of these type of incidents go on that show. And in those incidents, these black females would call the police on a black man for disagreeing with them or even leaving a toilet seat up, and they would go out here and use the same amount of excessive or similar levels of force on those black men. And they do this because it's their way of getting power over that black man and a way of saying that this is their way of putting a black man in timeout, basically emasculating him. So what we saw here was another effort to emasculate a black man by calling up the law enforcement. And this is something that is done all the time by ratchet black women. And what we saw here with this officer, again, there was no need to have a canine unit for a mental health issue. I mean, that's just excessive as I see it. And any good police dispatcher would not be calling a canine unit for a mental health situation. What would be called for a mental health situation is a mental health specialist or somebody with that type of training, but they didn't call that type of person. No, they went out here and just dispatched this type of officer. And again, that's just really incompetent policing. And if this black man were very smart, he would be filing a lawsuit against that police department, one, for excessive force, because this was his own home, and two, after he filed the lawsuit for excessive force against the police department, he should be filing divorce papers and kicking that female out of his home because she has violated his trust, and violated his home. But this is something that goes on with a lot of black men. Whenever a black woman feels that she is not able to get her way, what she does is she calls 911. And this is one of the reasons why so many black men don't really want to have cohabitation with certain ratchet black women, because they will go out of their way to call the police on any black man who disagrees with them, and they'll say, oh, it's a mental health situation, not understanding that when you call the police on a black man, you are basically signing his death warrant, because those police officers, they see that black man as a threat. And we saw that in that whole video. He was seen as a threat from minute one. There was no effort to try to get his side of the story or help him deal with it, whatever issue he was having. He was probably frustrated over probably some issue he was having with her, as related to probably some minor issue. And then she escalated it by calling 911. And if you truly love your husband or your boyfriend, you would never call 911 on him. But ratchet females, they will call 911 on a man because they really don't love the man. They see a man as a tool, and this is their way of trying to get power over that man, emasculate him, strip him of his manhood by using these white men to say that they can go out here and use him to get power over a situation. And that was the sad part about that whole situation. Again, this man, actually, as I see it, really, we never got to see what happened here to make him so upset. And we never really got his side of the story. They just called the police on him and then attacked this man in his home. And this is one of the things that really is one of the things that when I was growing up made me want to avoid dealing with a lot of women, because if you get into a situation like this over a toilet seat, over a pair of underwear left on the floor or something like that, this could happen to anyone, and you could wind up with a record, losing your job, losing your career, and losing everything. And I talk about that in depth in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And what we see right here in this incident is one of the core reasons why so many Black women are single, because they pull stuff like this and they wind up making it where the black man doesn't feel safe, and he winds up leaving her alone because he doesn't want to deal with this type of terrorism.
For no reason. When you offer violence to an officer, it's called felony obstruction.
I didn't offer you violence. You understand? Nothing I said was fucking violent. You understand?
Yep.
Nothing I said was violent or obstructive in any way, any sort. You let your dog attack me for no reason. Are you serious? I'm not your average black man, brother. You're gonna pay for this. Oh shit. Excuse me, brother. Can you get off my arm, please?
I need you to turn the other way, buddy.
Please. You're hurting my arm ridiculously.
I'm trying to.
Appreciate you coming out, man. He was standing in the driveway just balling his fists up and breathing.
He did nothing to threaten this guy.
No.
Now look at the blood.
You all right, man?
And his wife is up there.
She would be my ex-wife after that.
I don't care how many kids we have.
461, just confirm AMR is en route, emergency. We got a significant dog bite to the left shoulder, heavy bleeding.
He's lucky he doesn't lose use of his arm, or if his arm wasn't amputated as a result of that. God knows where it could have hit, but ooh. You had a chapter on why the law enforcement keeps black women single.
Yeah, I wrote that in Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. I wrote a whole chapter on how law enforcement keeps black women single, because they call the police in incidents like this, get a black man locked up, cost him his job, cost him his reputation, and they mess him up bad. So once he sees a word do something like that and put his whole life at risk, this gives him less incentive to marry her or get involved with her. So this is one of the reasons why black women are single, because they have to learn how to do proper conflict resolution. And if you truly love your black man, you know not to call 911, because if you call 911, chances are he's going to wind up leaving your house either in handcuffs or he's going to wind up leaving your house in a body bag. And that's something that a black woman who truly loves her man understands. And that's why she does not dial 911 as related to a situation. She will just, if you truly love your man, you're going to go out here and either leave the home, or you're just going to help this man try to navigate through whatever issue he's having.
Yeah. Okay, it's just me. I think for every situation is different. If you're talking about a violent crime or violence or situation, I'm not saying that there aren't times when the police can't be called, but this was a mental health call. Mental health, not a domestic abuse call. It was a mental health call that went out to the police, per what I'm reading in the news article. Now, she called them out. She talked about how she thought he was on drugs. She didn't say he was doing drugs. She said she thought, right? If I was listening carefully. But nevertheless, everything she said was giving cause to pause for the cops to come out. Well, here's the thing. It's just me. She didn't say that. You say, what if? If an if was a fifth, we'd be a millionaire. This was a mental health issue. Still, again, mental health. Cops are not trained for mental health. I'm not looking at why she called. I'm looking at the actions of the police officer. Because if it's a mental health call, what a canine unit should not have been there in the first place. They do not handle those types of calls, according to what I'm reading in department policy from the news article, just listening to what the attorneys have stated. And they responded. And if you watch the video just like I did, the officer did not do anything to de-escalate the situation. Cops are taught to, and I've had police officers come on this channel multiple times. Aisha being a former cop. I had a retired homicide detective, Ken Williams, who's come on. Their job is to de-escalate a situation and keep it from going into a dire situation as best as it could. He was looking, if you listen carefully, for something to go wrong. He was looking for a reason, essentially, to sick that dog on him.
Yeah, he was escalating everything throughout the whole video. If you look at the video, he was looking for a reason to attack. And again, why was a canine unit dispatched to a mental health call? I mean, that's not good policing. I mean, good policing is when you dispatch officers who are trained to handle a situation like this and able to diffuse that situation without any sort of arrest or any sort of escalation. When I looked at that whole video, I saw a guy who probably just wanted to be heard and probably just wanted somebody to talk to. I mean, if he was on drugs, as that was reported, his behavior would have been far more erratic. And what looked like in here, again, they just did not want to go out here and de-escalate the situation. They wanted to get an arrest so that they could be able to add another black man to their numbers and be able to say, we put a black man in jail. He should, again, sue for everything that he can, because his rights were being violated and his rights were being and he was being mistreated. So that is the real problem here as related to the whole situation. And the big problem is that they sent the wrong officers to go out here and deal with this whole case, and they made it into a disaster.
Right. Boss of Queenie says, I remember a few years ago, cops shot a counselor black guy who was assisting a guy who was having a mental health episode. That happened in Miami, Florida. I remember that. The man actually had his hands up the whole time. The counselor, like, please don't shoot. And the officer still shot him, even with the hands up in the air. So I'm glad you got it. It's just me. Because what I'm talking about, yes, I'm not saying that you can't call the police out there. We're not charged as deputies to investigate our own crimes. And there are situations they're going to have to come out. Something like this is what I'm looking at as the fault of the police officer and even the wife, because she basically escalated. She helped the police officer's aid in this attack on her own husband by her actions. She should have, you know, you call the police out there if he was having a mental issue. Like I said, I'm sure that she knows exactly how to handle it. She knows what meds he's taking. His wife in that situation. And no, I don't know what was going on in that house, but I'm more upset at how she acted outside the home. I'm upset at the police officers for sicking a police dog on someone without provocation. That's the issue. That's what really is pissing me off about this. He should definitely get, I know the attorney, Chris Stewart, he's a competent lawyer, a good brother. He should get as much money out of this as he can. You know, lost time from work, mental anguish, punitive damages. That officer needs to be fired. I think that dog needs to be put down. Yeah, I'll say it. I know they don't like it when you talk about their dogs, but put Fido down. This ticked me off, man. Really, to look at that, bro. I didn't have any more to say about it. You guys can check out if you want to go look at the video. But the officer needs to be fired. I think those other officers. I think he also should be charged with a crime too. He should definitely be charged with assault and battery of some sorts because he sicked this dog on this man. I think the police officers, if they knew it, certainly they could be charged as well for failure to act. I know that there are laws in place, I believe in Georgia, where if it's conduct unbecoming a police officer, if they witness a cop do something that is against company policy or against the law, they have a duty to actually, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not familiar with Georgia law, but I think that's what happened with Rayshard Brooks too, when the officers, Paul Howard had charged them with some additional crimes. With regards to this, Ben Crud, sleeps no matter, man. Ben makes his money. Shawn, what you have anything to say?
Not
Ben?
anything else. I've said all I want to
Ben,
say about that.
About Ben Crump and Lee Merritt.
Yeah, them being bootlicks and clowns. That's all they are. They're opportunists.
You think so?
Yeah, they just jump on cases like ambulance chasers.
You know, Corey Holcomb said this on his. He said this in the buck breaking documentary. He said, "I hope." He said, "If that lawyer that always loses," he said, "if he comes up to my door, I slam the door on him and call the dogs." Lamiko says it didn't sound like a mental health issue to me by the way he was responding. Well, look, pain will snap you out of anything. Pain will snap you out of anything. I mean, even if he didn't sound like it was a mental issue, the fact is the call went out as a mental issue. That's the thing, regardless of whether it was or not. And the K9 unit should not have been there. That's the issue. At the end of the day, yeah, could he be faking it? Like I said, I don't know what goes on in that house or what happened. There was no indication exactly if he did strike his wife or anything like that. He had some type of argument that occurred, but Hey, I don't know, but this should not have happened, especially given the gravity of the injuries he suffered. So that's just the way I look at it. Anyway, guys, I don't have too much to say. This has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here on channel G Boot 2786 on Gavin Richard and on Gavin Rich 2786 via Twitter. We have over 43 people. I know we've had more that are watching tonight. Shout out to all who in the chat. I don't know if anybody's contributed, but anything, but just you being here, I appreciate it. Shawn, his books include John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. You should check that out. You should check out his latest books as well, including Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes Taking Care of Business. Halloween is coming up. You should also Eternal Night, which is a book that he had, a vampire book that Shawn wrote. I don't have any more topics. I do ask that you please, if you would like, check out Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com, Nawny'sCreoleBlends.com. Get some seasoning. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nawny's goes great with every dish. Also, I would ask if you would check out the song Gotta Get On Up, which is available on iTunes, Apple, Spotify, and some other streaming locations. Bossa Queenie, you got your Noni Spice. Okay, great, babe. Tell me how it is. I know our sister Rashana, she got some as well. So let me know how you guys think of it. She said it was good. So that means I'm doing something right. Y'all should check it out. Also, you're welcome. It's just me. Thank you for being here, DeAndre. Oh, thank you, Roshana. I'm gonna have to let y'all know when my book comes out too. The Bill Cosby book I'm working on is I'm finished putting the finishing touches on it as we speak. So I should have a trailer. I'm gonna have a trailer coming up soon for it. As soon as I figure out how to work the iTunes movie with it. Shawn does it all the time.
That movie's not that hard. It's very easy to use. You'll be able to master it.
No, it's not hard. I've done them before. I've edited movies on here. I've edited video cameras. It's been a little while. I used to work with Cyber Director, actually. Shout out to Sister Nicole. I don't know if she's watching, but she just texted me. So hanging in there, darling. Hang in there, okay? And get well soon, you and your husband and so forth. I know her test came back negative, which is good news. Shout out to her. And Shawn, if you had any last thing you want to say, if you want to do another plug-in.
Yeah, I'm asking everybody to come out and pick up some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint. I'm having a really slow month as related to sales, so I'm asking everybody to pick up some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like ISIS Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, John Haynes, The Taking Care of Business, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. And I'm asking everybody to pre-order the upcoming books for the fall catalog, E-Steam Cancel Vacation, and Stop Simping in Cyberspace.
All right, guys, you've heard it. Stop simping in cyberspace. Purchase some more books. Please support our brother so he can go on vacation finally. I'm gonna say this too because I want to get with Shawn. I'm gonna challenge Shawn right here. Let's write a screenplay.
I'm out of the screenplay business because Hollywood is a mess, and I don't know if I could get the financing to make my own projects. I mean, if I did a Kickstarter, I have to wonder if I could get it funded. I've thought about it. I proposed the idea of making my own TV show.
Do it, Tariq. I mean, Tariq has been good with how he handles his fundraising. I've never seen a problem. But you do Kickstarter, you do Indiegogo. People, I believe we have people here, especially your subscribers who follow you, that certainly will contribute to it.
Yeah. Well, I might test the waters with the upcoming John Haynes comic book to see if people would be interested. But I've done Indiegogos and Kickstarters in the past, and I only got 1 out of 5 funded. So I'm really hesitant to go out here and try to ask for a large sum of money for a TV production. But we'll see what happens. Because I hired an artist to do the John Haynes that Death Store comic. And if I can get that type of crowdfunding project funded, we'll see what happens in the future.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, it is time to get on out. But before we get on out, we always got to get on up. So I want you to please, again, tune in, check out that song. Got to get on up. You can download that on the Apple Store and on iTunes. Shawn, I appreciate you once again for being in here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You guys, if you'd like to even advertise on the channel, you have a business, let me know. We can do advertisements for your company. Just shoot me an email, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Join the Patreon as well, because essentially when we're fighting censorship here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, we can put some things that may be canceled, they say quote unquote canceled, on the Patreon so that you all can check out. And also be on the lookout for more information and for more stuff. I think I might develop some more seasoning eventually. Black and Publishing is great at promoting Black comic creators. Shawn, have you had any talk with them?
I have not contacted them. If they contact me, I will be glad to talk to them regarding
Reach
joining
out
the
to
Death
them.
Store.
Might have to reach out to them.
Yeah.
You know, I might look into, I won't say too much on YouTube, but perhaps there may be somebody who might be able to help, be interested. So we'll talk about it a little bit more. All right, well, guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here, Random Topic Thursdays on channel GBoo2786. Thanks, Shawn James. Thank you all in the chat. Thank you for your donations. Rashana Morrison, I appreciate you. Thank you for buying the seasoning. UN, Bossa Queenie, I'm glad you ladies enjoy it. You know, I hope you buy more and contribute. But you guys be safe, be blessed, and I'll holla. Peace.
All right.
Good night, Shawn.
All right. You have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat. Cause on the dance floor is where we live. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on and move your body. Cause when the beat is really moving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on Earth, Wind, and Fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide on two. Hit the bus stop, I'll do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken brokenhearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now, 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you're breathing, you're achieving. So if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the floor. Yeah, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on. Baby, feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the.
DeAndre, who is Manuel Godoy? Shoot me an email. All right. That's it. Good night, guys. You. Somebody said my seasoning, my boy Gavin Richards seasoning on fire. Yeah. Woo. I'm glad you like that, baby. Put that on some chicken fish. But before you do, make sure your daddy takes off his Steve Harvey suit. Oh, yes, that 3-button long blazer jacket all the way down to the mid-tie. Yeah. Yeah, you better take that off. All right, y'all. I'm glad y'all love the song. My brother, Gavin Reshaw, that damn Gavin Reshaw with that get on up. Yeah. Woo. Boy, I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah. The whispers were good too, man. We had the same mustache. Yeah.